nonprofit organizations may be the way to go. It's one of those things that you have to really think about, because you strive to have a balanced budget. You want to be principled. But you have people that need our help out there. You have organizations that do great work. And I have thought about over the years this question, and it's a difficult one. But I think at the end of the day, if we're not principled and we don't stand on our principles, we're no different than Washington.
Matt's a CPA. I'm a CPA by education and training. Maybe, Matt, if I'm fortunate enough to get elected and you're reelected, we can teach the folks at the city how to budget. I would say that would be something that we should probably focus on. As far as giving money to nonprofit, they're vetted through the city and through the board. They provide a service that in a lot of cities is run by the government. And they are providing a needed service, and I would much rather that money be controlled and run through a board that is a nonprofit board that has more controls and that will spend that money much more wisely and much more efficiently than we ever can as a government.
Very good. In the past 2 years, there has been a battle over obtaining open records from City Hall by several citizens and journalists. The battle has resulted in changes to open records fees and a prohibition against citizens using their own cameras or scanners to copy records. If you were elected, what changes would you like to see in regards to the city's open records policies? Go for it, Kurt. You look excited to answer this one. I don't know why.
The reason I wanted to answer this one so quick is I have, as many of you know, I have requested many open records.
I think we lost your volume on that.
Hello?
There you go.
Oh, sorry about that. I've opened many open records requests. It's the best tool that the citizens have to look at how their government is spending their money. I can go up there, I can open a public records request, and I can say, show me the credit card data for this person. I want to know what they bought with my tax dollars last week. I can go up and see how they voted. I can see what grants we got, what strings came with those grants. I can see all kinds of different information. And I think it's an invaluable tool for citizens. The next thing I would like to see with open records, that I think we need to do a better job of making open records easier. For instance, I would like to be able to go in and take a picture. We all have smartphones. Today, when I go to Hendersonville and I file an open records request, I have to wait a week or two before they respond back, and then I have to set up an appointment to go down there. And when I go down there, they have a clerk that sits with me who we pay, who watches as I read our own records. So for example, I went down just last week and I read meeting minutes from Alderman meetings. Well, in order to do that, I had to set up an appointment. I had to go into a room with a woman who sat there and watched me as I read. And I was in there for a couple of hours. Talk about waste of money. A couple things we could do with that. We could put all those records online. I wouldn't even have to go in there. They're meeting minutes from the Alderman meeting. It's very easy to do. And to continue to make open records policies that make it more difficult for citizens to get access to their data and to waste money is a shame.
Just to let you know, and some of y'all have been in the middle of this situation, but to let all the others know, we changed policy or adopted policy. It was an ordinance, resolution. There's a lot of questions about that. But in the first reading, there was a motion made, I believe it was Alderman Woodcock, to allow you to snap a photo with your iPhone of the record. That was subsequently pulled out of there. This issue has turned highly political, but the answer is the more transparent we can go, we need to go. We need to be completely transparent. Not put burdens on people. I believe a gentleman spoke to the board a couple weeks ago, and he said that he hasn't had the same issues with police and fire that he's having with City Hall as far as open records requests. So, yes, things need to change. The first thing is to roll back that restriction on the inequity of charging people for duplication, but not charging for inspection. So they can look at records all day long, but if you want to duplicate a record, then you're charged the time that it took to pull those records, and that to me is it doesn't make sense.
I'd like to comment on that. I've been an advocate of transparent and open records for many, many months now. I'm really disappointed that we did not pass the amendment that Matt mentioned, where you can actually take a picture of the open record, of the record yourself. What cost would that have been to the city? And when I say the city, I mean you guys, the citizens, the taxpayers. So now they're wasting more money just sitting there, having a clerk sit there for hours and hours instead of taking a snapshot of 5 pages that may take 30 seconds, and you're sitting there for 2 hours and paying somebody there. I mean, that just does not make sense in my mind. It just doesn't make common sense. I mean, why? I mean, is it something that somebody has to hide? Is it something that they want it to be so cumbersome that people are just going to be so beat up that they're just going to give up?
Well, just real quickly, I agree with everything these guys have said. I understand in Nashville and in Gallatin, maybe Sumner County, they'll hand you the record book and say, knock yourself out, so they're not wasting their time while you're going through the records. And transparency is great. It's something that we need. And I guess the only other thing I would add to it is, if you don't have anything to hide, what's the big deal?
Can I just add one?
Of course.
One quick comment. Just think of it this way. Government says trust us, but they don't trust you.
Ah, there you go. Well, Ronald Reagan was only allowed to run 2 terms for president, so I have to ask you guys, should the mayor and the board of aldermen be term limited?
Yes.
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 2 terms. That's it.
Stanford?
I believe that I'm not as for it at the alderman level. This isn't our full-time job. You don't want people to be full-time politicians. Wouldn't be opposed to it, especially in Washington. But, we have term limits every election. People can vote somebody out that hasn't been doing a good job. And I think we need to have faith in the election process to work like it should. And, we have the right, I'd hate to have somebody really good that's a really honest, decent person, and they serve, a couple terms, and then they got to go. I mean, I'm just not for that at this time. But again, that view is not one of the harder ones that I hold down to and hold firm to. But that's just where I am today.
I'm definitely for term limits in the mayor's office. And I'm also, if there's more than 2 people running for mayor, I think if not one of those people get at least 50%, which is a mandate of the vote, that there should be a runoff election. And when you have a mayor that's only gotten 36-point-something% of the vote, that means almost 64% of the people in Hendersonville voted for someone else. So how can you govern effectively that way?
I'll say this real quick. As somebody who won with 37% of the vote 4 years ago,
You're not the mayor, though.
I'm absolutely for runoff elections. In fact, that's something that I'm currently investigating with MTAS, which is our advisory service, on the process to bring those to Hendersonville. I think that we need runoff elections, no doubt.
I just want to add that I agree with runoff elections, absolutely.
Okay, well, there's been a new D word that's coming into Hendersonville, Tennessee. It's a horrible, horrible D word, and I'm not talking about politics. I'm talking about drainage. It's become kind of a cliche cash phrase. And so I want to see how well you know your districts. I want you to tell me what is the #1 drainage issue, because every district supposedly has one. What is the #1 drainage issue within your specific area that you would represent? And if not, what would be the one thing that you would fix in your district first?
Southburn. And we've, like I said in the opening, we've allocated $2 million in bonds to address drainage issues, and a lot of those are in Ward 6. Savely Court area, they're ready to go next week. They're going to start fixing that one. So that area right there where that tributary is #1 with a bullet, and we've addressed it since I've been on the board.
Wow. What's the number one drainage issue? Well, I guess that's in the eye of the beholder on who thinks their drainage issue is most important. There's a few that come to mind. Deer Point has some issues with water pooling over the road and then going over the hill into people's foundations. There's drains in Edgewater that are completely clogged with dirt. There's culverts in, I can't think of the road name, that are completely clogged. Some of these are, easy issues to fix, but to say that, which is the most important, I think they're all important. And, every homeowner, every citizen's important, and every drainage issue to each one of them is important. So, thanks.
There's several in Ward 3. Timberlake, Evergreen, and part of Savely. But most important, none of the roads and the drainage issues and the sidewalk issues in Mansker Farms has been addressed. You ask why? Because none of those streets have been dedicated back to the city. We have been in a fight with the developer, Vastland, for the last 3.5 years, going back and forth trying to pull bonds, because guess what? They didn't finish their job in Mansker Farms. There's no, some of the streets don't have a final coat of paving. The curbs are cracking. Some of the streets are crumbling. There's drainage issues in yards and culverts, and that's not the city's problem because none of that has been dedicated back to the city yet. So we're in the middle of a huge lawsuit, litigation. They went bankrupt, foreclosed on, now back again. So it's been an ongoing issue. And some of these people, including myself, have lived in Mansker Farms paying city taxes for over 18 years. And it's time for something to be done.
One of the areas is around Cherokee, over on the Indian Lake Peninsula. But I think, like Kurt said, if it's a drainage issue at your house, then it's the number one priority. There was a lady when we were knocking doors the other day over by Creekside Marina that was really complaining about, after some expansion work that was done there, that she has additional drainage issues. I think the real sad part about drainage issues in Hendersonville is that we did a study back in the late 90s and we still don't have it done. Here we are 14, 15 years later, and as a city, we hadn't got it done, and that's the shame of the issue.
That's right. We are the city. Well, these guys sit here and think about their closing statement, their 90-second closing statement. I just want to sit here and I want to say, first of all, thank you for attending. And to those that are watching that might not have been here tonight for one reason or the other, I hope you've seen that it was truly a fair and balanced. It was not calling anyone out. And the one thing I have to say going forward, I want to thank Serge for hosting this tonight, because that's what we need. We need conversation. That's the most important part. Folks, you don't run for this office if you hate this city. You run for this office because you want better for the city. And we might have different ways of getting there, but by golly, we want what's best for our city. So I want to sit there and tell you guys that are here tonight and anybody else that's running for office, in the future, I don't care if the group, you might not agree with the group in a way that's hosting it. Never, ever, if you're running for office, pass up the opportunity to talk to a voter. And once you're elected, never pass up the opportunity to talk to a constituent. I don't care if you think it's not going to be a friendly room or not. Never pass up. No one voter is more important than the other. So please, I ask you going forward, there are going to be other forums like this before November. Don't turn it down. Never pass up that opportunity. Because if you're running now, it's going to get even worse if you're elected. Trust me. The fire does get on there, and the people do hold your feet to the fire. So let's start with our closing statement. That was my closing statement. Thank you for being such a great audience here tonight. Thank you for being here. We have an amazing community here, and it's only going to continue to grow. So let's start on the opposite end. We're going to go back from where we did. Please.
There we go. Well, I really, again, I appreciate you guys being here tonight. And the reason that I want you guys to vote for me and the reason that I want to be there is because I have a vision where this city needs to go. We need more good, high-paying manufacturing jobs. We need to recruit good-paying office jobs. We want to see the city. We have a vision for it, and I want to move the city forward with that vision. I know how to build consensus. I know how to work with people. I know how to set priorities, and I know how to get things done. I know how to be a leader, and I know how to make decisions. I don't have to wait till a developer pulls his zoning petition before I can go out and say, oh yeah, I was for that after he did it. I know how to step up and make a decision. I believe that my work experience as a commercial real estate agent, I believe my education in finance and as a CPA is something that can work well with the board. I know Matt's a CPA, and so I think that skill set is something that's needed, and that is why I'm asking for your vote on November the 4th.
My next.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Just to go over some of the, just to summarize some of the things that I've done in the last 4 years in office. First of all, it's been an honor to serve the citizens of Hendersonville, especially Ward 3. But just keep in mind, most of the votes that we take are for the city as a whole. My main driver is to represent the people. Represent the people with honesty and integrity. And put the people first. Over the last 4 years, I've challenged wasteful spending in our government. And yes, I've challenged it because that's what you want me to do, is challenge the wasteful spending. And there has been some changes because of that. I'm not afraid to ask questions, to question the budget, and to question where our money is being spent, because that's not the government's money, that's our money. I've assured that our neighborhoods have remained safe by providing the police and fire department their necessary resources that they require to keep our city safe. You could walk in any park in the city and be safe and sound, any street, and crime has gone down substantially over the last 4 years. Supporting our infrastructure is another thing that I have supported, kept our taxes low, supported economic growth and jobs, and advocated for more transparency in our government. Always put the needs and welfare of the people first. And thank you so much. It's been an honor and pleasure to be here tonight and to serve the people of Hendersonville.
Thank you so much to Serge again. You know, serving in public office is a privilege. It's an honor. You know, I've grown up and I've always been interested in serving others. I work in my church. I volunteer in my church. I volunteer on my HOA. I volunteer as a coach with football and soccer over the years. And I think it's important that each one of us, you know, give time back and volunteer. And that when this is all over, we're still friends, we're still neighbors, and we can have friendly debates and we can argue in the parking lot. But at the end of the day, we need to be civil and we need to be, you know, friends with each other because we live together. And it would be my honor to serve Ward 4 as your next alderman. And I think it's time for accountability to be returned to the city. I think the newspaper headlines need to change. I think the things that have been happening need to stop happening. And we can go from Public Works up to the mayor's office. I think everybody's had an opportunity to read these articles and what's been going on. Everything Hendersonville has done a fantastic job covering all kinds of things there. And again, it would be my honor to serve you as your alderman in Ward 4. Thank you.
You may not agree with every stance that I take or every vote that I've made. I know I sure don't. I've looked back at a couple and said, why did I make that decision? With the planning commission stuff, but on the important issues, I stand firm and don't change. And I always try to do what's best for my constituents, and I always try to do what's best for the city of Hendersonville. I think that's what we're all trying to do. So when it comes down to is who should you elect? You should elect honest people. You should elect people of integrity, people of good moral fiber, people that are not going to play politics